Welcome back to the Empire's Legacy. This is where we dive beneath the surface of the Ottoman Empire's history, beyond the glorious victories, into the fragile beginnings, the betrayals, and the moments that almost tore it apart. In our last episode, we stood beside Murad I, the warrior sultan who stormed into the Balkans, built the Janissary Corps into an elite force, and met his end at the Battle of Kosovo, leaving behind a throne and an empire that was still young, but ambitious. Today, our story follows his son, a ruler whose name struck fear across two continents. They called him Yildirim, the Thunderbolt. Bayezid I. From 1389 to 1402, Bayezid's armies moved with a speed so fierce, it was said that no fortress could prepare before his banners were at the gates. But the same pace that brought him glory would also lead him headlong into a clash with one of the greatest conquerors of his time, Timur. And that meeting would bring the empire to the brink of collapse. So who was Bayezid? How did his ambition fuel the Ottomans' rise and nearly cause their fall? Let's strip away the legend and see the man as he was. When Murad I fell at Kosovo in 1389, the Ottoman Empire stretched from Thrace into the Balkans and across Bithynia in Anatolia. But its grip was far from secure. The Byzantine Empire, though a shadow of its former self, still clung stubbornly to Constantinople. In the Balkans, the Serbian and Bulgarian vassals simmered with resentment, their loyalty to the Ottomans more out of fear than respect. And in Anatolia, the Turkish beyliks, Karaman, Germian, Kastamonu, watched for any weakness, eager to reclaim lost lands. Into this turbulent landscape stepped Bayezid, 9 years old, already a seasoned commander from his campaigns under Murad. He inherited not just a throne, but a fragile empire surrounded by enemies and rivals. Bayezid's remates, unnumbered as a ruler of contradictions, a brilliant strategist whose speed on campaign earned him his famous nickname, but also a man whose ambition drew him into dangerous conflicts. Ottoman chroniclers like Ashik Pashazadeh and Neshri celebrate him as a fearless Ghazi warrior, defender of Islam, breaker of enemy lines. European writers such as Dukas portray him as relentless and uncompromising, while Timurid sources speak of him as a formidable rival whose pride would be his undoing. Modern historians, Halil Inalcik, Colin Imber, see him as a ruler who pushed the empire's boundaries so quickly its stability was constantly at risk. We know Bayezid not only through written accounts, but through the physical marks he left behind. Mosques he built in Edirne, coins stamped with his name that still surface in archaeological digs. These speak of a man who saw himself not just as a conqueror, but as a ruler shaping the fabric of his state. From the moment he took power, Bayezid's strategy was clear. First, secure Anatolia. Unite the Turkish heartland under one banner, removing any threat from the east. Then, drive westward into the Balkans, tightening the Ottoman grip on Europe and keeping Constantinople under constant pressure. Between 1389 and 1392, he struck at the beyliks with unrelenting speed. Karaman, Germian, Kastamonu, all were subdued or annexed. His Janissaries, inherited from his father, were the key to these victories, disciplined, loyal, and deadly in battle. But Bayezid also played the game of marriage politics, taking princesses from defeated rulers as wives, turning former enemies into family. By 1393, Western Anatolia was firmly under his control, a strong base from which to launch campaigns into Europe. That same year, Bayezid struck at the Balkans. He captured Tarnovo, bringing an end to the Second Bulgarian Empire. He crushed Serbian uprisings, and then began the move that would define the next 8 years, the Siege of Constantinople. From 1394 onward, the great city was surrounded. Bayezid's forces cut off supplies, waiting for hunger and desperation to do their work. Byzantine historian Dukas writes of the misery inside the walls, of citizens driven to desperation. But the siege also alarmed Europe, and Europe was not about to stand by. In 1396, the Crusade of Nicopolis was launched. It was a formidable coalition. Hungarians, French knights, Burgundians, Wallachians, all marching under King Sigismund of Hungary. They expected to sweep the Ottomans aside. Instead, Bayezid crushed them. At Nicopolis, his disciplined janissaries held firm and his cavalry encircled the enemy. The battle ended in a slaughter. Chroniclers from both sides describe the horror: thousands dead, nobles taken prisoner, and Europe humiliated. The victory cemented Bayezid's reputation as a ruler to be feared. But it also drew the attention of a far greater threat: Timur, Tamerlane, the Turco-Mongol conqueror whose empire stretched from the steppes of Central Asia to Persia. Bayezid's conquest of the Anatolian beyliks had angered Timur, many of whom were under his protection. Tensions built until in 1402, Timur marched west with a vast army to confront the Thunderbolt. The two forces met at Ankara. The summer heat was brutal. Dust clouds hung over the battlefield. At first, Bayezid's army held strong, but then came disaster. Whole contingents of Anatolian troops defected to Timur mid-battle, turning the tide. The Ottomans were routed. Bayezid was captured. The Thunderbolt who had terrified Europe was now a prisoner. He died in captivity in 1403. Some say illness claimed him. Others whisper that he took his own life rather than live in humiliation. His death plunged the empire into the interregnum, a 10-year civil war among his sons, Suleiman, Isa, Mehmet, and Musa. The beyliks he had conquered rose again. Byzantine intrigue fanned the CP. Yet somehow, the Ottoman state endured. It survived because of the foundations laid by his predecessors, the Janissary Corps, the Timur land system, and a centralized administration that could function even when the throne was contested. By 1413, Mehmet I emerged victorious, restoring unity to the empire. Bayezid's reign was a paradox. His lightning conquests built the empire higher than ever before, yet his overreach nearly destroyed it. Ottoman tradition remembers him as a tragic hero. Modern history sees him as a lesson that even thunder can fade, but the storm it leaves behind can still shape the world. Thank you for joining us here on the Empire's Legacy. What part of Bayezid's story struck you most? His meteoric rise, the catastrophe at Ankara, or the sheer resilience of the Ottomans afterward? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to follow this journey through the true history of the Kaya tribe, like, subscribe, and join us next time as we uncover how Mehmet I restored the empire and Murad II secured its future. Until then, keep searching for truth in the shadows of the past.